Alright, gang, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today is another director's commentary. I'm excited. This is of the last... So I've made... Since I started doing weekly videos, I've made 4. This one is my 4th one. And I think I mean, you would hope it's like my favorite every time I make a new one. But I think it is probably my favorite for a multitude of reasons. One, because probably one of the main reasons is that in this video I made all the music for it. Every musical note that is played in this video is by my own hands, and I was quite happy with how it actually turned out. So that's something cool. Also, I've got a link pinned in the chat for the Patreon if you feel so inclined. Let's move this just a hair down. Okay. Anyway. So without further ado, let's wait for, let's see here. Okay. Also, what do you guys think of the new thumbnail? I made a new thumbnail for the director's commentary. I'm doing them in templates, so like I'm going to do that one for director's commentary podcasts, and then like the other one for other things. If you think it's cool, I don't know. It'll be basically up to you guys, but anywho, we're watching my most recent video. It's entitled How I'm Making Money Doing What I Love. So let's flip over this screen, and we'll get cracking. Here we go. Give it a quick pause. We'll make it big screen.
If you love what you do.
Whoa, easy, buddy. We're not started yet. Come on now. Let's make it. I'm gonna make sure the volume is decent. Actually, I mean, hopefully you guys have watched it, but here we go. Let's check it out.
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Now that's something over the last 21 years of my life I've heard, but never really truly understood. Because if you never work a day in your life, then how do you make any money? How do you live?
And what if what you love to do doesn't make you any money?
That's a great question.
So we got a couple things here off the bat. First of all, there was a segment where I said, it's back here. I said, if you never work, how do you get any money? And then I went, and what if what you love to do doesn't make you any money? So that section, I actually was like in the middle of editing, and I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Because I didn't have that in there initially. I was like, well, this doesn't make very much sense. So I decided to go, I just recorded myself talking. So I had to put it in underneath something so you couldn't, because it was literally just, I was like this, I was holding the camera to my face, and I was just like, here's talk. Just so I could get that little snippet of what I was saying and put it in the video. So if you really pay close attention, it kind of sounds different. Excuse me, but other than that, not too crazy. Oh my goodness. And then I had to censor out the license plate because I had to censor out the license plate. So I figured I was just kind of looking through random pictures, and I was like, screw it, we'll use a bag of Cheetos for this. So we go back a little, and yep, it's a bag of Cheetos. I did this multiple times in the video, but I was like, I mean, that'd be kind of a funny little Easter egg feature, I think. So that's really the reason for that there. And also, it's funny to me, just the thought, every time I make one of these videos, it's regularly around 6 minutes long, which is cool. I would kind of like them to be a little bit longer, but also you can't force that kind of stuff, because then you end up filling it with fluff and stuff that's not actually important, and that kind of sucks. So I don't know, it's just funny to me that they almost every single time end up almost the exact same length every single time. I've gotten a lot better in recent videos animating stuff, so like that bag of Cheetos is like locked onto my license plate. So there's, in other editing softwares, there's a feature that you can like take a thing and then pin it to a certain part of the video, and then it'll follow that point. I think you can do that with this, but I find it easier to just do it this way. I just animate it and like kind of, it's pretty simple. I just kind of like do what's called keyframing. So you add these little dots on your timeline, and then you take each dot and you move the thing. You move in this instance, the bag of Cheetos, and you just kind of go, and then it moves. Basically, you can move it frame by frame, or you could space them apart a little bit, so then it moves gradually on like one line. I don't know, but this was easier than it probably looks, but either way.
My car.
Also, this is something I want to show you something real quick. I made a video about, I was doing a short I recorded the other day, and it was talking about different GoPro shots that I could get. And in that edit, I did something that I don't think I'd ever done before. Maybe I have, I don't remember. But it was really interesting, to me at least, where I had hit my car because I was talking about that mount that I have, the GoPro mount that's pasted to my car. And I was talking about that, and in the video, I sort of give my car a little tap. I was like, I hit my car with my hand. And then I used that in the edit as the cut. So like I put that underneath the next video. So as soon as that you hear that smack, it immediately cuts. And so I did that here. Let's pay attention here.
This is my car, a 1999
See, I don't know if you got that, but that's cool. Also, I think the internet's acting weird, but we'll see.
Toyota Camry.
Hopefully not.
1999. That's 24 years old. This year is 2023, which means next year it'll be 25 years old. And in the state of Missouri, 25 means that it can be classified as a historic vehicle. So as much as I hate to admit it, this little guy's days, they're numbered. So in the last couple of years, I've been trying to save up money to get this car replaced. Ideally, I would like to get something new. But when it comes to buying new cars, it takes a lot of money. And money is something that, at least not yet, I'm not getting from these videos.
Now, something I wanted to address here, too, was all throughout making this video, it was in the back of my mind, hardcore, that I did not want to make any of this sound like I was, like, begging for money or... I don't know. I feel like money's a sensitive topic, and I talk about this a little bit in this video, but I feel like it's one of those things that it's hard to talk about because somebody is going to take it the wrong way or misinterpret what you're saying, something, just weird things like that, annoying little things like that you don't, they'll be like, oh, you're just sitting here begging for money, and it's simply not true, but that's how they interpret it. Which, if in anything like that, whatever you make, whether it's about money or not, it's up to anybody's interpretation because it's art at the end of the day. But it's also, you can't get too caught up in that. And I tried to be very careful and cautious with how I word things and how I address certain topics in this video. But at the same time, people are going to interpret things how they want. So that's definitely a thing you want to consider if you're talking about stuff like this, is like, you know, be careful, but at the same time, don't hinder the value just to protect people's sensitivities. So, like, give the value regardless. And if people don't like it, that's their problem. So, like this, a lot of the value was talking about doing what you love and trying to make money in the process of doing what you love. And at the same time, somebody could take that and be like, oh, man, you're just trying to get people to join your Patreon or whatever. And I'm like, that's not true. There's actually a message in this video. It's not a sales pitch. So, but I didn't want to say that in the video because I was like, well, that feels tacky. Like, oh, this is not a sales pitch. You absolutely do not have to join if you don't want to. This is just me posting about it. But I wanted to add a story to it. And I personally, I feel as though I succeeded in that regard, but you never know.
I'm not making any money with these videos. And that's why I still work at Taco Bell. Now, I don't hate the money job. Taco Bell's okay. But I also don't love it. But what I do love is making these videos. However, I also like eating. So how can I
like eating. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And somehow be able to fund existing? I feel like on the internet today, or just in general,
that's funny. So another thing I did here, I like to line up. I've been trying to be a little bit more mindful and creative as to where I cut and like how I use cuts, if what they do, if they're motivated. So like just a minute ago I was talking about how I hit the car and on beat it cut to the next thing, and the same thing applies here, although it's not like a cut like you would think. It's not cutting to another scene, but when I make a face, I kind of make a face, and then right on beat with that, the music starts back up, which tells your brain we're getting ready to transition to the next thing. So it's like kind of a cut. Excuse me, good grief. It's kind of like a cut before the cut. So
able to fund
check this out.
Existing. I feel like on the internet today.
This is annoying.
Be able to fund
Why is it acting slow? It's like buffering and stuff. It's weird.
existing. I feel like on the internet today are just
Trust me, it was lined up, but the internet's acting stupid. Is it actually working? No, it's on. It's just being stupid. Great.
in
We'd love to see
There's such a
that.
bad stigma around talking about money. Everybody needs money. Everybody wants money. So why is it so bad to talk about? Inside, why does it feel so ugh? So there's a lot of ways to make money by doing this thing that I love to do. And one of the obvious ways is
I had a funny little thing here. Let me think. When I was recording the music for this video, I ended up recording like 45 different takes of stuff. And I think I only ended up using 2 different songs. I had to go back and look, but I'm almost positive I only used 2 songs of the 45 recordings that I made. And really, of the 45, I cut it down to like, I think 9 that were actually decent. And then I cut it down even further while I was editing. I was like plugging stuff in and taking it out and stuff and trying to see if it actually fit. And only 2 of them actually fit. And yeah, what was one of my intentions with recording the music on my own was I wanted to be deliberately extremely picky about it, because I didn't want you to be able to tell. Like, if I didn't say anything about it, I wanted you to think it was like just some music track that I dug off the internet. Like, I wanted it to feel real. And obviously it's real, but I wanted it to feel like it was like it fit with the video. And that was my main intention too, because I was watching a podcast. I think it was a podcast. It was either a podcast or some video that had Van Neistat in it. I think it was like an interview he did on his Patreon. But anyway, he was saying about how when he makes his videos, at least he used to. I don't know if he does this anymore. But he had a guy that, Van would make his video in full. I'm going to go full screen for this while I'm just talking. But Van would make his video in full. Make the whole video start to finish. Not a single scrap of music in that video. But then he would send it off to his music guy. And this music guy, super talented musician, would score the video. So he would do the entire video's music unique. So not, to my understanding, each video there for a while was a perfectly unique music track, because it was made for that video. So I wanted to do something like that here, where I recorded the footage and I kind of know what the feeling I wanted to convey was. So I made sure and made music that sort of matched that and also didn't distract from that, because a lot of times it's hard on YouTube or on YouTube Audio Library specifically, because it's not as wide an array of stuff as any other service that you get to pay money for, but it's not as a wide of an array, so you had to really dig to find that right music track, which is a little bit tough. But that's why once certain people find like 10 songs that they really like and that fits the vibe of their videos, they just use those same songs. And I did that there for a while. I liked to use the same however many songs by the same however many people, but eventually to me it got redundant and it felt like I was using the same song every video, which sucked because the feeling of each video was really similar and I didn't really want that. I wanted it to be sort of a unique experience every time. So then I went through and I was downloading new songs basically every time I made a video. And I actually, a long time ago when I did a challenge 48 hours in my car, that whole video I made the music on my own as well. But that was also it was a lot different. It wasn't very good in my opinion, how it all kind of came out. I mean, it was good at the time, but also I didn't really like how it ended up. So I wanted, another one of my goals with this one was I wanted to make sure that this one, I was actually happy to listen to it and like happy to rewatch it, and it felt like it fit. So, and I didn't want it to be too complicated either, because like a lot of these music tracks have like so many layers to them and they're great musically, but for my video I didn't want it to be too much, and I didn't want it to be, again, distracting. I wanted it to fit, and then I wanted it to accompany the visual and to assist the visual and assist the narrative. So there's a lot more to it, and I think I want to dabble in it again. I think I want to it's like a double, triple, quadruple edged sword here, because I can make the music exactly the way I want it to I can make the music exactly the way I want it to be, to fit exactly how I want it to. So that's one. And then also it gives me an excuse to play my guitar, which is awesome. I love doing that. I just haven't ever had time, or haven't really been in the mood for it. But now this is a reason. This is something that I can do while it contributes to my bigger goal. And then also, again, I could just make it exactly how I want it to be, and that's really the main thing. I want to make the music exactly how I think it should feel, because every time I go through when I make a video, I search through the audio library and find what fits the vibe for that video. But if I just make it myself, it'll always fit, and there's no exceptions because I'm in control of how it sounds. And it gives me more practice, so the more I do this, the better I get at playing the guitar and getting the ear for what I want it to sound like. And so I could kind of sort of come up with my own sort of feel or brand of guitar playing, which is kind of cool. But anyway, let's get back to the actual video.
To get monetized here on YouTube, but that's obviously easier said than done. How do I make money in the meantime? How do I...
One of the things too, I want to ramble about the music again because it's something I was really happy with. But the way I initially decided to do it, like the first thing I did before I recorded anything, was I knew I wanted it to be super simple, and I knew I wanted it to be easy to edit to. Because a lot of the music that you'll put in a video, it's kind of tough to edit to, at least to me, sometimes, because the way it looks, it's hard to get cuts to where they'll be on beat because there's a lot of different beats. And so if I make it exactly the way I want it to be, where it's simple, it's just boom, 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 boom. It serves the musical purpose in that it has something in the background, and then it also is easy to edit to, if that makes sense. So it's very simple, very pleasing to the ears. It's nothing obnoxious. It's nothing too aggressive. Nothing too loud. So that was a cool thing. I was quite happy with how I was able to make it happen to where it was simple enough, yet it also served the purpose in full. Like, it did exactly what I wanted it to do.
In the meantime, without actually being monetized here on YouTube. One of the struggles of being an artist or one who makes things is being able to afford being an artist and making things. But the truth is, I'm terrified. I'm terrified that I won't make enough money or make any money at all. But I do it anyway. I make these videos anyway. I make things anyway.
Something I did too.
I'm not monetized on
I love everybody.
Everybody
was talking. Hold on.
And it's not for my own.
I tried to pause and it wouldn't work. But a lot of people have given me feedback about the overhead shots and like the drawing footage. And that, first of all, as far as I'm aware, I think that's like the most one of the particular things that I've gotten the most feedback on is like that people like these shots. So I've wanted to implement them more. And so I had a whole list. I had a whole shot list for this video. I did this once a couple videos ago, but I wanted to do it again because it actually was really helpful. But I had a whole shot list of what exactly I wanted to do with the overhead and just in general. Well, I had a shot list of B-roll that I wanted to get, and like 90% of it ended up being just an overhead shot. So I just drew a whole bunch of stuff, which I think really helped accompany the video. And to me, it just looks super interesting because you can kind of see it unfolding. And then with this particular drawing shot, it was fun because the way I put it in, it landed exactly so to where it fit what I was saying perfectly. So like I was going along, and at the very end, you'll see in a second, I say something like, and lucky for us being creative people, there is a way we can make money. And at the very end, whenever I say there is a way, is when I write in the word Patreon. It's really cool. So let's skip back a little bit, and then we'll start it.
It's on YouTube. There's got to be a way I can make money. There's got to be. And it's not for my own selfish gain. It's not because I want to drive a Lambo or something. It's because I want to be able to make these videos and not starve to death. Lucky for us being all creative people, there is a way.
Dude, that to me is so freaking satisfying because it's like the build-up. The drawing itself is the build-up, and then the writing of the word Patreon and the underlining is the payoff. It's like and then payoff. Patreon. That's the answer to the question. That represents the aha moment in this video. Because I have it written down right here. And it's even circled. The aha moment in this video is Patreon. That's the aha. Because you got the beginning. This is one of my best as far as making sure it's like a narrative structure. So like the beginning was, I need money. The setup, the problem. I need money, not only to survive, but I also want to upgrade my car at some point. Which, that part, the car is a narrative tool. It represents just things that you buy in general. But the beginning is the car story. You start with that. That's the setup. I need money. Essentially, the general idea of the setup is I need money to sustain what I'm doing and also to just exist on this planet. You need money. And then you kind of ask the questions. Well, how do I get money? I'm not monetized yet, so how do I get money? And then you get this right around the middle. You've answered that question. The question is, or the answer to the question is Patreon. That's the thing that I figured out. And then, okay, so we're going to go to the following action next, which is like the seeing if it works type of thing. Also, this was a fun little sequence. I wanted to put this in here for one sole purpose. So after, good grief. So after the Patreon, the aha moment was realized.
Creative people.
There is a way. And then boom, we have jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut to recapture your attention. And also, if you notice, these are all light bulbs. That is a visual representation of figuring it out, of it clicking in my brain. All the light bulbs are turning on. And then what I have figured out, because see, what I wanted to do with this, this was all very deliberate, was I wanted to visualize, okay, Patreon, you are seeing this as the thing.
There is a way.
And then you have a visual representation of me figuring it out. And then I show. I don't tell. Something I think I've gotten better at in recent videos is showing, not telling. So you see this. You see Patreon on the screen. And this gives you a reason to look at the screen. You see the Patreon on the screen. Thank you. First post. Then we got another post. And then we have information. Again, Patreon. The word Patreon shows up almost in all of these cuts. In all of these shots, you see the word Patreon. Patreon, they got the $3 a month, the membership. And then you've got, okay, I'm leaving now. This was just a transitional thing. Which, fun fact, this cloud is actually like stock footage from Premiere Elements. I had no idea they had that, but really cool thing. I saw it and I was like, this is dope. I want to use it. So I chucked it in. So, not once.
Patreon.
So at this point, not once did I say, here guys, I've started a Patreon. Join the Patreon for exclusive this and that. I wanted to be a little bit more tasteful than that in this. So I made sure it was a thing that the viewer put together, not something that I just spoon-fed, if that makes sense. I didn't want to, because there's a thing where in video making that you don't want to insult your viewers' intelligence, so you want them to be able to figure it out, and then by figuring it out, your viewer feels a sense of like they did something, like they feel accomplished, like, man, I figured that out. That's cool. And it's like one of those types of things. I don't know what it's called. There should be a word for it, but it's where the viewer sort of figures out what happens before the subject does. So like in this video, you could probably put together that I want to start a Patreon or something. Before in the video, for me, it clicks. Before it clicks for me. So like it doesn't, I'm still like, how do I make money without being monetized? How do I do this? Is there a way? And you're like, well, you can start a Patreon. And then I'm like, I can start a Patreon. So the viewer feels empowered and like they're a step ahead of what's going on in the video. So I think there's something about it making the viewer feel, I guess, confident or just like they're ahead of the game in a way.
Is branded as a way for artists to get their first regular income, however much that may be. It's based solely on the support of the people that consume whatever these artists make. So you could have 10 followers, but if those 10 people elect to support you financially, then you can make a decent amount of money. And it's not going to be anything crazy, but you don't have to get 4,000 hours of watch time. You don't have to have 1,000 subscribers. You just have to have a handful of people that care about you or your work. Now, something that I found was important.
That was a cool. That whole thing about you only have to have like 10 followers. That's facts, and it's such a cool element. It's such a cool thing to me because, like on YouTube, obviously the YouTube does it differently. They pay you differently than Patreon does. So like obviously on YouTube, it's based on ad revenue and stuff. The way YouTube directly pays you is through ads and through viewership and stuff. So they want to make sure that you're actually getting viewership for them to pay you money. But on Patreon, it's purely based on the people, so they could just give you money, which is such a cool thing because a lot of people get paid more from like their Patreon or their membership services than their actual ad revenue. Once they get big enough, obviously, it varies from person to person. But, in theory, you could have somebody just starting out, but have a really supportive group of people and people that are able to support financially. So, like, this person could legitimately start out with 10 followers and get $5 a month from each of those followers. That's $50 a month, only having 10 followers. So you could you could invest that $50 a month to your content and grow that much quicker. I'm not saying there's a direct correlation between money and growth of your content, but you can pay for a better editing software, or you could pay for a course to learn, or you could pay for a better camera or whatever when you're starting out. That could give somebody a really big edge if they use it correctly. Because there's obviously multiple ways to do things. But anyway.
To me, whenever I started my Patreon, I wanted to
And see this, I'm sorry, I keep stopping. I always do this where like I get excited and I pause it. But when I talk about, in this shot, I talk about how when I started my Patreon, so I think at the beginning, I'm talking from a place of having not done it yet, and then once the viewer figures it out and once I give the information to where it's like the viewer knows that I have made a Patreon without me saying I've made a Patreon, this is now cutting to me talking about, okay, I've made a Patreon, or when I made a Patreon. And so I think it's never, I was very careful and I treaded lightly where I wanted to make sure that I wasn't saying like, by the way, guys, I made a Patreon. Wink, wink. To where I wasn't sounding salesy. And I think that was one of my biggest goals in this video. And I think I did it pretty well. To where nobody felt pressured or that annoying, like, hey guys, join the Patreon. Please, give me money. No. I didn't want it to feel that way. Because that's not how I want it to feel for people. Like, I want it to be somebody who resonates with the content and perhaps either wants to support or wants to see more. But this is one of the methods I use to delicately inform about my Patreon without trying to sell it, but I just wanted to talk about it.
100% certain that there was a reason for somebody to even sign up for it. And I also want to make sure that what I was providing for the patrons was absolutely 100% exclusive and you had zero access to it anywhere else. But that's also assuming we get any patrons at all. So now we've started the Patreon. The Patreon is up and running. I've got some content on there, and I've even got a few patrons. So now I can officially say that I am making money doing this. And for that, and for the people that support me, I am infinitely grateful. So I'm going to continue making these videos, and I am continuing to make these videos for Patreon and for YouTube. And with this, and with creating videos for both YouTube and Patreon, I think there's one big takeaway that I absolutely have to address and I absolutely have to maintain. And that is that doing what you love does not mean you have to make money at it. It just means you have to do it. When we find the things in our life that we are either extremely talented at or we're extremely passionate about, I think we owe it to ourselves to do those things, whether or not we make any money at it. And at the same time...
So that's something I wanted to talk about too, because in editing, for some reason, it didn't quite make sense to me, like what I was saying. But then I watch it again, and I'm like, okay, I remember, because it's hard sometimes to remember where my brain was at in that moment of talking about things. So what I essentially mean by this was, just because you're doing something that you love doesn't mean you have to monetize it. Obviously, it's cool if you can, but you don't have to ever monetize if you're doing something you love, because in theory, you're doing what you love because you love doing it, not because of any sort of potential monetization or any sort of monetary gain. You don't want to do what you love because you want to get paid for it. You want to do what you love because you love it. You know what I'm saying?
I want to be able to do the things that I love, the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm passionate about. I want to be able to do them full time. I want to be able to sustain.
So there's that where you don't want to do it because of money, but at the same time, you also want to be able to get paid for doing what you love, because who wants to do what they hate for money? You know what I'm saying? Is money even? It's not worth it. Doing something you hate for money. You would rather do something you love for money, right? Like, that's just obvious. So that's part of the point here.
That way, I can just do what I love. With all of that said, money and making a living off of your passions should not be the goal. The goal should be creative expression, doing it because you love it. Do what you love because you love it, not because it makes money or has potential to do so. Money should be a result of what it is you love, what it is you're doing, but never the reason. If I didn't absolutely...
There's a good pause for you. I've talked about in past director's commentaries, I've talked about implementing pauses, because that's something I've been really bad at in the past, because I get caught up in the fast-paced editing world where you have to retain attention every half second of the day. But I think letting it breathe allows for a better quality reception of the video. So somebody who's locked into the video, somebody's watching it, and they're like getting all this information, but they're not getting time to process it. So these pauses allow the person to take what you just said in your video and sort of ponder on it and be like, okay, he said this. What does that mean to me? Okay. I feel it now. And so you get a better... I think there's better depth. There's better depth in the viewership you get the number, so let's just say one view, but that one person gets a better... They feel something from the video. The video is received really well. So that's what that kind of stuff does. At least as far as I'm aware.
I love making these videos. I wouldn't be able to do it for 4 years without making a single penny.
That's crazy too. I've done this for almost 4 years.
So if at any point one is able to make a living from their passions, their talents, that's something that's really, really hard to find.
So now what do we do going forward? I'm going to continue making the things that I love to make. I'm going to continue to make exclusive content for the Patreon. I'm just going to keep doing my thing.
But at the end of the day, my goal in starting a Patreon to begin with is to be able to do what I love, essentially for a living, or at least to get one step closer to that point. I don't want to make millions of dollars.
And this was another thing too. This whole end, you see, I'm here in the office when I'm recording that. I recorded everything until that last shot of me standing outside, and at that point, I had like 3 more minutes of dialogue on there, but I cut that all out because it didn't really make sense to like the narrative I was trying to say, because there towards the end I sort of got off of what I was trying to tell. But I realized that when I reviewed the footage, so I whipped the camera back out and I sort of wrapped it up and tied up all the loose ends the way I meant to, but I got off of it because I get distracted super easily. But I was really happy with having done this, because this really, I think, this part made the whole video, it made it a story, because I started it off on the right track, but then eventually I got kind of off of it and I kind of got distracted. But this brought me home, and this brought it all back to where it needed to go, and I was really happy with the effect that adding this clip did. Like that effect that this had, I was really proud of it.
And be filthy rich. I just want to be able to do this as my job, and then with help from you guys, I could make a little bit more money and eventually buy myself a brand new car.
Oh yeah, baby. Patrons! Woohoo! Here's the patrons. Shout out to Chloe, Evan, and Peyton. You guys are awesome. And then music by me. You gotta give credit to the musicians. Come on now. You gotta give credit to the musicians. But that was such a cool... I really like that video. I like that it feels really good to me. Like, something about it, good vibes. I like the music. The music is one of my favorite things about it, truthfully, because I made it, which is awesome, because now this is one of 2 videos on my channel that I can say in absolute certainty, I made 100% of it. 100% of it was my hand, which is really cool to think. It's a really cool thing to me. But I really enjoyed, like I said, that last bit tied in the narrative, and it made it sort of all come together in a way that I felt was effective. So it's an amazing thing. I think this was a really good video in me seeing, for my own personal mind, I see with this video that I've gained a better understanding of story in a video and how to implement a narrative and make a video about something and have a story attached to it while still giving value and still making it all look cool, if that makes sense. Like, I think this is a good video. I think this is one of the videos that I'm going to, down the line, I'm going to look back and be like, that was a video that sort of was that video. Because in life, you'll look back and you think, man, or in the moment, you're like, man, I'm not really making that much progress. Like, it kind of sucks. You're in the moment, you're getting 1% better every day, right? And you don't really feel like you're doing anything improvement-wise. But then you look back in a year, and you're like, man, you could pinpoint exactly when you learned this and exactly when this clicked. And I think in, say, a year, I bet you in a year's time, I will look back at this video, and I'll be like, man, that was where I started to really get it figured out. And that's when I started to really understand what it is I was trying to do. And also, completely off topic, but look at this. Hold on, you're not on here. So over here, 6 minutes and 53 seconds, 7 minutes and 2 seconds, 5 minutes and 47 seconds. You average that out, and this one's 6:07. So you average that out, and it's like almost exactly 6 minutes per video, which is fun. So I don't know how it just ends up that way, I think. There's nothing intentional about it, but it's just fun that it ends up that way. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. That's it for the whatever it's called, director's commentary. Not much to say about this one. I mean, obviously I went on for 40 minutes almost, but I don't know. It's just always fun for me to do these. I enjoy talking about the videos in more depth with you guys. So if you're live, what's up? And thank you for being here. And if you're not live and you made it to this far to the end, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with me for almost 40 minutes. That's pretty impressive. Oopsie. But anyway, thanks so much for hanging out today, guys. It's been fun. I'll catch you again next week with another director's commentary, because I do have another video for next week. I'm actually going to be here, which is exciting. Stay tuned every day for shorts and other things of that nature. Join the Patreon if you want to support, and I'll catch you guys next time.